In this latest video, we are going to explore even deeper some actor headshots, not just the basic stuff that an actor might need to get into the business, but really getting in on some character work and what it takes to build out an actor's portfolio. Welcome back to Adorama TV. My name is Gary Hughes, and today, as usual, I'm working with Caleb from Spectacle Photo, and back with us in the studio again is my good friend Megan, who's going to be an awesome model for us today as we dive into character shots that actors might need. So the first thing that you need to know is, does this person have an agent? And that direction is incredibly important because the agent is the person that's out there representing them, getting them auditions, telling them what to put on tape, dealing with casting directors, and that person, that agent, is going to know exactly what type of things not only that actor might need, but the types that would fit them. Because the mistake that I see a lot of people make is that they try to fake their way into looks that ends up not being effective. It ultimately has to be believable. We've got Megan in the studio today who actually needs a specific update that we're going to shoot for her that is directed by her agent. And so the first look we're going to do is professional, but we're going to start with a real commercial version of this. Someone who works in an office, which is a almost universally useful character shot for any adult who's going into acting. So let's get started there. So we got all the lights in place and Megan's ready with some great wardrobe, and we're going to take these headshots that are not professional headshots. They're going to be acting headshots where she's playing the character of a professional. If you want to check out the last video, you can see that we created some headshots that every actor are pretty much going to need, concentrating on a general commercial headshot and a general theatrical headshot. In this video, we're getting into character work, and the key difference is going to be, instead of it being a picture of the actor, it's a picture of the actor as a specific character, trying to look like they are going to be slotted into some kind of TV show or commercial or film. You really want to tell casting where this person is trying to fit under the direction of an agent. So for professional, we're going to go kind of bright and bubbly, doing the commercial version of this, nice and warm and upbeat, using bright colors and generally flat lighting, but still with a little bit of punch and contrast. So let's get started here. Megan, are you ready to rock and roll? I think that it's very important. I don't think we can hammer home enough the idea that you don't want to be shoehorning people into character shots that aren't appropriate. Easiest example is you don't want to try to make a 12-year-old look like an undercover cop. That's just not going to work, right? It has to be believable for that person. And acting is very often about becoming another person, but you can figure out for yourself what is and isn't believable. Just make sure that if that actor has an agent that they're working with, that you're getting direction from that agent or a coach, and then use your own best judgment. All right, I want to have you use a few of the tools in your arsenal to change the shots like micro expressions. You don't have to feel like you have to change something drastic every time, but use like a narrowing of the eyes, a slight smile, a tilt of the head in very small degrees. Every time the lights flash, change a little something. And as we hit on things that work, I'll be fine-tuning those as we go. So we're going to get a lot out that way if we kind of like lights flash and then we move. And if we hit on something great, I might ask you to hold it for a couple and then push for a little bit more. We've got some light coming across, 2 strip lights that are illuminating the background and providing separation light on Megan. I've got a 34-inch octabox shooting mostly down, and I'll try to get a great shot of the angle that it's at because it's really specific, not using it in a traditional beauty lighting or Paramount formation. I'm dumping most of the light that box is putting into the eyelighter 3 underneath so that we're getting pretty flat, soft light rather than punchy kind of Marie Claire modeling light. And then finally, a little bit of light from my little buddy, the AD100 soda can, just giving me a little more illumination on that background to brighten it up a touch. So this is a 4 light setup using the Fujifilm X-H2 with the 50 to 140 lens. And most of the time I'm photographing actor headshots, I'm at 2.8 to give it a shallow depth of field. And since that's a crop sensor camera, don't forget that it's going to be a little bit more like shooting f4 on a full frame camera. All right, so we're ready to go. I think it looks great. Start straight on, and let's do 5 shots with like tiny, tiny micro changes. All right, here we go. And action. 1. Okay, awesome. I like that. Hold that and just give me a little more pinch in the bottoms of your eyes and corners of your mouth, like 2% more. That's awesome. Okay, ready? And again, we change, micro change. Perfect. I like that small. Now give me a little more eyebrow lift in that. There, ooh, that is actually really great. So we'll go to that kind of like, yep, a lot more fun. Very cool. And now give me that slight tilt. I like how you did that naturally. This is going to be like a good skeptical listening face. Think comedic. Yeah, really push that. Yeah, I like the little tilt there. Turn your head just a tiny bit to the right. There it is. So we've got some really good kind of commercial, warm, and leaning into, you know, the person's dynamic is really important. Megan's got a really cool retro through line to her style. She's got like bright colored hair. She's very expressive comedic actor. And so I want to make sure that I'm always leaning into those strengths when we do that. It's really important sometimes to, when someone comes into the studio, sit down with them for 10 or 15 minutes and just chat and get a sense of what they're like. Ask them questions about what they're trying to accomplish, how they see themselves, and you're going to be able to direct them quite a lot better than if you just point a camera at them and start clicking away. All right, so now we're going to do something. We've got what I think is a pretty good commercial version of this professional headshot. So think comedic roles, think potentially film and TV or commercial for stuff like that. But now what I want to do is give this a little bit more of a kind of straightforward industrial look. Now, an industrial film, let's say, for example, you ever been in a job where the first day they sit you down and make you watch a bunch of videos? That's industrial. And so there's a lot of that type of work for actors. Almost every decent-sized company has to make videos like this to use internally, and they can be a really good opportunity for actors to make some money. So keep that in mind when you're doing these types of things. So we want to look like intelligent, reasonable, warm, and approachable. And so I'm going to move Megan around a little bit, but instead of a fun, quirky vibe, we're going to go with a little more like warm and approachable. All right, so let's go with that, but straight-backed, professional, but warm listening face. She's explaining all of the HR procedures for the company. That's about right. One of the tricks I use, especially when it comes to long hair, is when I do something and I want it to have a little more polished look, I will usually direct a client to put hair back on one side and not all the way around. Don't whip it around into a cascade, but I want that hair to still be there behind the ear, but one back, one forward, always has a little bit of a polished look to it. I think this is one of the handiest things you can possibly have in a photography studio is just quick access to a mirror so the client can see themselves from your specific point of view, from the camera angle. Because even if you fix their hair and then you move them around, what's going to happen is their hair is going to shift as they shift. All right, here we go. Start, and then we'll work in a few teeth and no teeth smiles as we go. And action. 1, good, 2. And add a little more warmth into that, like you're listening. Think about the end of an episode of Full House. This is a really good, like, yeah, Danny and DJ just having a real heart-to-heart. Good. A little straighter in the back. And tilt your head a touch this way. There you go. And turn your upper body a little bit to the right. We're going to create a little bit of depth by moving those shoulders straight, instead of being straight at camera, a little bit away. All right, up and pull the lapel just a little straighter, get some of those wrinkles out. Yeah, you got it. And keep those hands there. All right, nice and warm and thoughtful. Turn your head a centimeter to the left. There it is. Boom. I love that. And there. You are now the spokesperson for HR for my studio. The difference between a commercial headshot and a theatrical headshot in a character can simply just be the direction and the expression of the person in it. But we're also going to lean into this look a little bit more. We're going to move from professional into procedural. Now, what procedural is essentially, think about every cop show or hospital shows or military shows, basically where you have something's happening, it's the same kind of formula every week, solving a crime, etc. Think Law and Order, shows like that. And inside procedurals, there are a bunch of really juicy characters. And the reason that procedurals is a really safe character to photograph for your clients is because there are always procedurals on TV. Since television was invented, there have been cop shows, and police procedurals are a staple of network television and now streaming and films, and always have been. So what we're going to do is two sides of the same coin in procedural. We're going to go with kind of the detective look. This is a real strong look. We're going to go with like edgier, more contrasty lighting. Everything's going to be a little darker, a little grittier. And then we're going to flip that with only expression, with only body language coaching. We're going to flip that over into the other side of that part of law enforcement, where instead of the undercover cop, maybe even the anti-hero or bad guy or like a thug or something like that, or somebody on the opposite side of the law in that same situation. And all we're going to do is change how we're directing Megan. And by we, I mean me, not you. I'm doing this totally by myself. You're not helping me at all. You should help me some more. You can cut that out later. All right, so a couple of notes on things that we changed. For this lighting setup, what I've done is create one of these strip lights that I was using in the back is now angled more towards Megan, so it's going to give her a hot edge light and potentially light up her jaw as we've pulled her hair back away from wrapped around her face. If this is a person who's sort of like a on the street, working, undercover kind of person, there would be a little more utility. It wouldn't be so pretty. Not everything is glamour. You're trying to show the character, and not all these kinds of headshots are glamorous. I'm still using the other strip light to give a little bit of separation on the opposite side and light up the background, and using my best friend, the AD100 Pro, to provide a little bit of motivated light onto that background, which is kind of blue and splotchy and real underlit, real dark for contrast. I've also taken the highlighter, my fill light essentially, and I've moved it a good bit further away from Megan because I don't want it providing nearly as much fill. I want those shadows to be deeper. I want the light to be a little bit more harsh. All right, now just straight on and then leaning forward into the light just a little bit, and let's just get a test and see what we got going on. All right, so I'm looking at the light, and if I had a signature style in actors' headshots, it's this look. This is it. I put my name on this one. I do this one so often. You've got great light that looks like it's hitting the background and Megan's right side on camera left, and you've got deep enough shadows that still have detail to provide a little more of a cinematic look and feel. I've got a two-tone color image, which is basically the blue in the background, the blue denim, and her hair, which is like kind of that auburn brown red mixed with that brown sort of top underneath. And we've got a really strong color palette going here, which I like a lot. So we're going to go with it. We'll start straight on, and then we're going to move into just a couple of poses to give like strength and intrigue and play both sides of the face and both sides of the light. So what I want you to do to start with is we're going to be very strong and straight on, square up to the camera. And then imagine that first on the call sheet, that's going to be the star. In terms of actors, when you say first on the call sheet, that's usually the most important person filming that day is the first person they call. For example, like, who would be first on the call sheet? Like probably Angelina Jolie, Paul Newman, yeah, whatever. Is Paul Newman alive? So to create a little bit of movement, if you just hold the bottom of it, if I've got a jacket, I like to put the hands in them, and then imagine your hands are in your pockets, and you're moving through the frame that way. That's it, yeah, perfect. And now we're going to go ahead and have you tilt a little that way, lean in the frame a little bit this way. And I'm always trying to create motion through the frame by having somebody lean diagonally in it. And now what I want you to do is to lift your chin a millimeter, lips gently together, and then that look of suspicion is what I want, because that's somebody, it's always just the eyes clenching a little bit in the bottoms, those bottom lids, and that almost looks like you're standoffish with that lift of the chin, and that little pinch of the eyes makes you look suspicious. Good, and now keeping everything the same, I want you to add just a touch of a smile, touch in the corners of your mouth like you just figured something out, and you're going to be able to nail somebody to the wall with what you just discovered. Yeah, perfect. Excellent. I love that look, and I think that is right on par with what we want. It's got a great contrast, really cinematic. We've got a cool range of expression in there. So now we're going to change it a little bit more by just changing the angle. And I like to both broad light and narrow light the subject's face in situations like this. And I think that when you turn their face away toward the shadow and you're photographing into the lit side of the face, broad lighting, it has a feeling that they're kind of moving away from you into the shadows, which has a little sinister of a feel to it. So that's one of my moves that I really like to do. So what I have to do, Megan, is turn your feet to the right just a bit. There you go. And then we're going to be walking this way, but you're leaning back almost like you're leaving something behind and you're thinking about it. So tilt your head back into the light that way, and then forward into me just a touch. And now we're going to move. Yeah, there we go. Remember, I'm not always trying to get the prettiest lighting in the world. I'm trying to create really good character lighting. Megan, that's perfect. And here we are down the home stretch. Character look 3 of 3. We're going to go for the best friend vibe. And this is a really important part of film and television commercials in general, is that support character, that person that's always there, for the lead character. They're going to be funny, they're going to be sympathetic, and they're generally just always going to be there to reinforce and support our main character. And there are a lot of roles for that. In fact, there are plenty of actors who spent their whole careers playing the best friend, and it's a pretty solid choice for a character shot for a lot of actors. So we're going to get into it now, and I'm going to direct Megan around a few different ideas of what that best friend could mean, whether it's an empathetic ear or whether it's a cheerleader. We're going to go all the way through that range of emotions and give her some great best friend shots. In the meantime, we're also going to be working on small things that are going to change the image. And I've changed the lighting a little bit to be more direct, less dramatic, fewer shadows, and change the background to be a little more neutral and warm. All right, let's give it a shot. One of the easiest ways to get an extra look in, a sneaky way to get an extra look, is a pair of glasses. And I would even recommend, if your client doesn't even wear glasses, having a few extra pairs of glasses around the studio isn't a bad idea. My own glasses have made an appearance in dozens of images of clients when they don't have any. It's just a real cheap, sneaky way to get a whole extra look with minimal effort. Luckily, Megan's got these great frames that she brought all by herself, and I didn't have to give her my glasses so I can still see the camera while I'm working. So let's start with posture. It's going to be very upbeat and bright. And I love the head tilt can signify listening, right? There's that kind of evolutionary, you turn your ear when you hear something, and that sort of psychologically signifies someone's listening to you. So I'm going to do a soft little head tilt, and then just bring your chin a millimeter down just so we don't get some reflection on the glasses. And then that warm, sympathetic listening face. There we go. But it's got to be like, I got you. Like, no problem. I am your person. Anybody who does you wrong is my enemy. That is, you are the ultimate support human. I love that. Perfect. And now we're going to go a little bit into kind of like hype person too. You're excited about everything that's going on. All right, we're doing it. When I need positive reinforcement, I'm coming to you. You're my person that's always going to make me feel better. Great. And now I want you to go a little bit up, and then we're going to probably strengthen up the posture a little bit. Just hands right here, and then you're going to kind of like almost spring into me. Yes, very like. We're going to turn it up to 11 on the emotion. All right, now we're going to take off the glasses just to give you that extra range of look and give me the same thing. We're going to go a little bouncier, a little brighter, shoulders back a little bit, and then turn this way just a touch, and then forward to me. Here we go. And very cool. All right, so let's take a look at what we did. So we've created a really cool range of useful shots for Megan while keeping to like her natural look and style and things that were directed by her agent. So just remember, when you're creating character shots, in the whole world, there are thousands of potential character shots and nuances and sub-character shots. You don't have to do all of them. Make sure that you are working with your client ahead of time to make these decisions so that they know what wardrobe to bring, what works best. And if there's an agent or a coach involved, you always want to make sure you get their input, because if you don't, when they go back to the agent with the photos that you took and they're not what they needed, they're going to probably either have to come back to you and not be happy about it or hire someone else. And that you don't want. You want to do a good job at all this stuff. So check the link in the description, and that's going to have all of the gear that we use to create these headshots today. If you want any of that, check it out on Adorama. That's pretty much where I got all this stuff anyway. And thanks to Caleb for doing the video for us at Spectacle. His information will be down there too. And thank you to Megan for being an incredible model for us today. So don't forget to like and subscribe and share, because right now this stuff is free for you. You got all this for nothing. Isn't that cool? All you have to do is that, so they will keep making videos. Thanks for tuning in to Adorama TV. I'll see you in the next one.